Hello everyone, this is Techie Snake and welcome back to another video. For those who are new on this channel, few months back, I had made a video on multi-device charging station using the IKEA SKADIS Pegboard and Anker Slim Power Hub. After using this Pegboard setup for several months, I felt it was lacking character and required some illumination. I searched for different ideas and finally decided to install multi-zone gradient RGB LED strips behind the pegboards. Multi-zone RGB LED strips can have multiple colors across the entire length at a given moment rather than one single color. But soon I realized that the installation was not going to be straightforward and had many challenges. In this video, I will show you a unique method of applying gradient RGB lighting on IKEA pegboard set to enhance the look and ambience of your setup. Since I have 3 pegboards set up side by side with a total perimeter of 4 meters, the RGB strips would need to be cut into smaller sections to match the length of each sides. However, the problem here is that you cannot cut to size most multi-zone gradient RGB strips such as Govee RGB IC and Philips Gradient RGB strips. The main reason is that multi-zone RGB strips have different sections with individual IC chips that communicates with the rest of the strip. Cutting the strip could either damage them or make them non-functional. There are some that can be cut but with a limitation that it has to be the last end and would also void the warranty. The second challenge is that even if I choose an RGB strip that can be cut, they would require several extension cables at corners to bend the strip smoothly, and also connectors would be required to connect them across the space in between each pegboard. These extension cables are a pain to install and will also leave a gap, making the glow inconsistent. After brainstorming, I came up with a solution that totally eliminates the need for cutting RGB strips and does not require any extension cables and ultimately gives a much better and consistent appearance. The idea is to make use of the sufficient clearance behind the pegboard by sticking channel diffusers at the edges with RGB strips inserted in them. In this way, the RGB strips will be oriented at 90 degrees to the pegboard and the lights will reflect from the wall and illuminate through the pegboard holes, giving a much better and consistent coverage until the very center of the pegboard. Whereas if you just stick the RGB strips facing the wall, they will leak a lot of light outside the perimeter and will have poor coverage towards the center of the pegboard with uneven distribution. To implement this idea, I used the following items. For the RGB strips, my choice was to use LIFX Z strips, which is one of the best multi-zonal gradient LED RGB strip. It has excellent brightness and has one of the best color gradient control. The length of the strip would depend on your pegboard dimensions. In my case, I needed 4 meters, so I used one starter kit which comes with 2 meter strip and 2 extensions of 1 meter each. Next, you would need LED profile or channel diffuser which are cut to match pegboard dimensions. Make sure they have flat sides so that they can be stuck easily on the pegboard surface, and also ensure it is of correct dimensions so it fits behind the pegboard, and at the same time ensure it is wide enough to accommodate the width of the LED strip. You can see on the screen the dimensions for my setup here. Next, I used double-sided tape to stick the channel diffusers to the pegboard. Some cable tie wraps which are very helpful if you have multiple pegboards. Lay down the pegboards on the ground. Use double-sided tape to stick the channel diffusers to all sides of the pegboard. Insert the LED strips into the diffusers to cover the entire perimeter. Connect all the LED strips to each other. You can tape the connections so they don't unplug accidentally. Ensure that you do not remove the 3M tape on the RGB strips so they don't stick and you have some room for sliding them across for any adjustment. Before you install the pegboards on the wall, complete the setup of LIFX RGB strips using the app and check if they are functioning properly. LIFX Z app setup is really easy and I have put a link in the description for those who need it. Use tie wraps to hold all the pegboards together and prevent them from moving around while lifting and installing. This will avoid the risk of damaging the LED strips. It is better to take someone's help if you have more than one pegboard. Lift and install the pegboards on the wall. Once the setup is done, it is time to see how it looks. Alexa, switch on pegboard. As you can see, the light glows through the pegboard openings and makes it look really elegant, creating an amazing and unique ambience. There is no light being leaked outside the boundaries, and I can adjust different color gradients across the entire pegboard using the LIFX app or by giving command to Alexa. That's it for now in this video. If you found this video useful, please like it and share it with others. And please don't forget to subscribe. See you again.